Good afternoon and welcome to a different kind of webinar today. We're going to be discussing this West African letter fraud scam. So it's more about scams today and what scams are out there, what threats are out there, and a bit about security and how we can avoid that. My name is Martin. I am the technical support manager here. And just before we get into today's presentation, we're just going to discuss a little bit about SMS. So we have now become one of the very first Microsoft partners in the UK to attain the coveted status of Solutions Partner Modern Work SMB. This replaces our gold partner status. We specialise in providing cloud solutions and services to a wide range of industries. We have been established for well over 15 years now, with a portfolio of 4,500 customers, which is continuing to grow. We hold both ISO 9001 and 27701 certifications, and we do provide 24/7 support, and that's 365 days of the year, to all the services that we provide to our customers. All our staff are UK based, and we are here to help you to get the most out of services such as Azure, Microsoft 365 and Modern Workplace. So the itinerary for today is, or the agenda for today is basically we're going to be discussing what the West African letter fraud is, as well as the 419 email fraud. We're going to discuss the types of threats, some password security, a bit about multi-factor authentication and what that is. We're going to talk about Microsoft 365 Secure Score and why that is important. And also to finish off, we'll be discussing Microsoft 365 securities and some add-ons that you can purchase on top of your 365 service. So what is the West African letter fraud? Well, basically, this is a fraud that is an advanced fee scam. So basically, it's when you're asked to help transfer money out of the UK to other countries such as Iraq, South Africa, and West Africa. This is when a stranger will contact you to ask you to pay an admin fee to help them move a large volume or amount of money out of the UK into another country. And they will promise you everything under the sun. They'll say to you, if you can do this for us, we will reward you by giving you a cut of the cash at a later date. But this is never the case. This is never true. This is how the scam basically works. The emails are worded quite nicely, to be fair. They're worded in a way that you want to help them, but that's just how the perpetrators get around sort of butchering it up to try and give out your money, basically. Now, if you do actually give out any bank details to them, what will basically happen is they will empty your bank account, and then what they will do then is you'll never hear from them again, and tracing them, it would be basically by near impossible to basically find them. There is also something called a 419 email fraud. And this is a similar thing where they'll send you an email out and it will basically say the same kind of thing. Whereas the West African letter fraud, the initial one that actually was starting to happen was actually via postal mail. But it can be, I say, it can be done via email as well, and that's where 419 email fraud comes in. And the 419 just represents the country's criminal code where it originates, basically. So how can you protect yourself against this kind of fraud then, or this kind of scam? Well, don't respond to any emails that might look like you're not sure who they've come from, basically. So delete them straight away. So, I mean, with this sort of thing, most things are too good to be true. So, I mean, if someone's asking you to transfer money out and you don't know them, you've got no reason to trust them. So you just got to be very, very cautious and mindful. You get this kind of email scam through. You just got to basically, most of the time, almost 100% of the time, these are going to be some sort of scam email to try and get your hard-earned cash, and they'll just take it, and you'll never hear from them again. And tracing them would be near impossible. Never travel anywhere if offered, because there has been cases where they'll say, if you come out to South Africa, we'll pay your flights for you, accommodation, etc. But you have to pay up front first. People have actually done that. They've ended up going there, and there has been incidents where people have been killed. So it's never travel anywhere if you're asked to, because they will put your money in danger and your life in danger. So you just need to be very, very cautious of that. These scams, that's how they basically work, and there's millions of people that are falling for them all the time. So you just need to be very, very careful about that. So how can you spot the signs of these type of incidents? Well, basically, the emails that you get, even though they are quite nicely worded, that they are badly written. The grammar on them is usually pretty poor. And they do it in a way where they'll say we're a distant relative, or it even looks, some of them times they look like they've come from a government agency, or like a local authority or something like that. And in reality, that's not the case. It's a complete, that's the scam basically. So you have to, the one thing you can look out for is the domain name will be, if it comes from, say, a local authority or a government agency, they will basically word it in a way that makes it look like it's a real domain, when in reality it's not. It's actually either a fake domain, or it's just a domain that they've created to make it look like that. So it could be like, UK government gov. Whatever, basically. So you just need to be mindful that the domain is usually an indicator, but sometimes they can use technology to get around that. Also, the first part of the email address is normally a giveaway as well. I say poorly written text, things like that on the message, but these sort of things, no one's going to offer you a percentage of money if you transfer money out. It's just not going to happen. Now, you may be asked to pay, obviously, this fee, this money, so they can effectively release a large amount of money. So they might say to you, we need £1,000, but we'll give you 10 grand back. Well, that's not going to happen. This is all part of this scam that they're trying to pull, basically. So even with governments, and no government would ask you for that kind of money. And if it was someone like HMRC, for example, they would write to you first, and you can authenticate that by calling them and verifying that is from them if you're a bit concerned about it. Now, the way these scams also work is that if you don't respond to them, they may leave it a while. It could be a couple of days, it could be a couple of weeks, it could be a couple of months, but you'll then get contacted by a different person, and it will be a new proposal. It'll be completely different, but it'll actually be the same person that's sending it. And then just basically, and they'll use a different email address. So you'll think it's, might think it's kosher when it's not. So that's one of the scams. Now, here in the UK, we have a division of government called the National Cybersecurity Centre, and they are there to protect against cybercrime, but they're also there for where you can report email scams and fraud to. They have the authority under government to actually basically do something about it, and they can actually investigate it. And they're there to try and prevent this from happening. So if you are a victim of any type of scam email, if you go onto their website, it tells you what to do. It's usually a case of forwarding the email to a specific email address that they publish on their website. But the NCS SC are the best people to forward that onto, because then they can. If we all do that, basically, we can hopefully one day maybe put a stop to it permanently. But the likelihood of that is pretty slim, but it will help ascertain and stop these perpetrators from basically doing this sort of scam, these letter scams that are basically going out. So that's just sort of the main thing that you need to be aware of. So these are some of the type of threats that are out there. I'm just going to go through them for everyone. So you've got social engineering, you've got email phishing, spear phishing, angler phishing, and whaling. So we're just going to summarize what these all are now. So social engineering is an art where you can manipulate someone or influence them or even deceive them to gain control over your computer system. So a hacker, which is the perpetrator, might use either phone call, email, postal mail, or even direct contact to gain illegal access to your machine. Some of the examples of this is phishing, spear phishing, and whaling of social engineering. So email phishing, this is the number one. This has been around for years. So this is the most well-known that people will have heard of before. This is basically the number one sort of phishing fraud scam, issue that you do get with email. So basically, this is where a malicious actor, so an actor is either an individual or a group of people out there to get your data, will send you an email and they'll try and impersonate as a known brand or an individual. They will use things like social engineering tactics to try and get your information. Now, they could do this a number of ways. They can send you an email with either a website link on it or a link to a direct file. So if it's a website, you'll click on a link and it will basically say something like, your machine's got a virus on it, for example, you need to download the following file to correct it, or you want a prize or something. The direct link to a file will be a similar thing. And then basically they want you to download that file. People are going to think, oh, my machine's at risk. And then it's going to download that file and run it. Now, when you run that file, it will actually execute and it will install what's known as malware or malicious code onto your machine. And that malicious code is designed to take your data, which is known as PII, which is personal identified information. So it's designed to basically steal that data from you. And once it's on your machine, it could do things. For example, it could get hold of your address book with every single person's email address in it, and send the same email to all your contacts in one swell swoop, and then it'll keep going on and on. It'll be like a domino effect. So it'll just keep going on and on and on, basically. So you just have to be very, very careful about how you deal with these things, and there is prevention measures that you can put in place to prevent it. But if you did get one that came through, you need to be cautious of it. So the idea is that you need to look out for legit information. So to make sure that there's no, usually it's like I say, similar to the letter fraud situation. If you get an email which is misworded, or its grammar's terrible, images are really bad, or it doesn't look quite right, it's going to be some sort of phishing scam or phishing email to get your code. You even get some nowadays where they have little text on it and it'll say you won a prize, and it'll be like a link that you click on, and they're just the same thing. That's exactly the same thing, basically. But as it goes on, these people are getting cleverer and cleverer. They're making emails to look pretty much genuine. So it's just a telltale signs, and it's usually the email address or the domain is wrong on it. If you read the context of the mail, the wording's not always 100%. And then usually at the bottom, in the footer of the message, a lot of companies send it out and they'll have about their privacy statement and all the rest of it, etc. There's normally issues in there as well if you read through that. But if in doubt, if you don't ever get an email from this particular place before, then it is going to be some sort of scam in some way, or some sort of phishing attack basically against you. So spear phishing. Now, this is mainly designed to target organizations. So this is where it will use social engineering, in which a perpetrator will disguise themselves, trusted individual, to trick specific individuals or groups within a company or organization into clicking on a spoofed email, text message, or instant message. So this is a way of getting data from you as a company, so you can actually get company data. So this gets even serious, especially with companies holding so much data about customers and suppliers and things. So look out for no abnormal requests. If you're receiving an email from someone from another department, or claiming to be from another department, that does seem out of the ordinary, and they're asking you to do something which is not your job function, then simply don't do it and check with your manager. Because the likelihood is it's going to be somebody that's trying to disguise themselves as someone that works for the company, and they might be asking you, for example, if you work in the accounts department, to pay a £9,000 bill, and in fact, it's putting £9,000 of company money into a bank account, which would be a fraud situation. So you need to look out for things like that. Anything that you're unsure about, I would always check with your superiors, basically. Another way that they can do it is they can send shared drive links. And the prime example of this is, for example, your company's having a works party, and they basically need to complete a form in order to be registered for do, for example. So they'll send you a link to Google Suite or 365 or Dropbox, where it will actually redirect to a malicious website that allows you to collect all the information. And then basically, once they have all that data, they've got that data. Now, this data can actually be, they'll just be doing it for you as an individual. They will be doing it on a broad scale to millions of companies. And what they basically do with that data then is it could be sold on the dark web for the highest price it goes for, or they can use it to blackmail you into getting certain things. They could do ransomware attacks, things like that. So you need to be very, very careful. When you're unsure about something, is not to click on it. And there is preventions that we can put in place, we'll be discussing shortly. Another example of it is password protected documents. If you've got a document that comes through and it's asking you to enter your email address and password for your account, then the likelihood this is a way of gaining access to your email account. Now, just remember that most people use the same password for everything. And we are going to be discussing passwords as well shortly as well. So you need to be careful of that. But if they can access your email account, if you're using that same email address, because there is people that do use company email addresses for other websites, they can gain access to all them websites because they can reset the password if the site that you go onto doesn't have any other password required. Most of the time when you click forgot password, it will send you an email with a link. You click on it, you reset it, it's done. Sometimes they have a second level where you have to basically prove something else in order to reset it. But you just got to remember that if they have access to your email account, they can access other websites that you use as well, and it could become a major problem. So you just need to be careful of that one. Now, angler fishing is fairly new. It has been around for a bit of time, but it is fairly new considering compared to the others. And this is basically aimed at social media. And it will basically attack or entice targets to divulge in personal information or financial data. And I've seen this firsthand. And basically the way that they do it is you will go into, say, Facebook, and you'll get a notification in Messenger saying that you've won a prize, or here's 10% off, whatever of an item, for example. You click on the link, it will take you to a website. It'll ask you to log in with your Facebook details, which people do. And then it will say, we need access to the following data: name, date of birth, address, friends lists, whatever else it wants. As soon as you click accept, you'll normally then get a dead page. It'll say, page not found or something, or it may just redirect you back to Facebook. But by that point, you've given them access to all your data that, if you've got that stored in Facebook, will be automatically copied into a database somewhere where the attacker's coming from, and then they've got all your data, and they can then use that against you for financial gain. So they can basically blackmail you. They could lock your account out so you can't get into it and start posting random things to all your friends. And the same thing happens on things like Instagram. That's one of the biggest issues that does happen on there. I've seen that happen to several friends of mine. So you need to be careful of that. Another way that they can do it is if you put an ad, say for example you're in a group on one of the platforms, and you make a comment, you might notice a few days later that you get this random person tagging you into a comment on there and replying to it, and it'll say, we can make you loads of money by investing in stocks or property or whatever. And that's another way that they can do it, because as soon as you click on the link, it will ask you for financial details, and that's how they can get your financial data. So this is what you really have to be careful of, because it is becoming a major problem now, and it is affecting not just individuals but companies as well. So it's just something you need to be careful of. Now, whaling, or otherwise known as CEO fraud, is effectively, it's designed to target high-level executives or board members within an organization. So it's where an attacker will masquerade as a trusted source to steal money or confidential information. So the way that this works is a senior member of management will basically contact you and say, we need following action taken out, and we need doing now. This email will look genuine. It will look like it's come from a proper internal address because it's been spoofed. And because it's come from a senior manager, you just do it. Now, if you've never had contact with this person before, then the likelihood it's going to be some sort of scam or fraudulent activity. Another way that they could do it as well is they can send saying that I'm such a person in a company, and it's come from a Hotmail account, and that's the first telltale sign. That would never happen. They'd never send it from an external address other than the company. But if you're asked to do something by somebody that you've never spoken to before, and you might not even know who they are, then the best thing to do is to report that to your line manager and say to them what's going on, and then they can then liaise with their email service provider to find out where this email may have originated, and obviously put something in place to prevent it. So we're going to go into just a bit about password. This is only just a short slide. A bit about password security. So typical ethics of password security is that most passwords, well, all passwords really, should be 16 characters, and they should have a combination of letters, numbers, and other like special characters as well. You shouldn't really, you should never share a password with anyone. You should never use the same password across multiple sites. They should all be different. You should use things like password managers, such like 1Password do one. You know, Apple have one built in, Google do. I believe that the Microsoft Authenticator has one now as well. So you can use services like that. And you should never include personal information in a password. You should never have like your kid's name, you know, spouse's name, pets' names, anything like that. The typical rule of thumb is that you should always have a password that's completely random that only you know and you'll remember. And this may be the case of, it could be like, you could look around your room and say, well, I'm going to create my password as picture fan table door 27 dollar, for example. You could use that as an example. That's sort of like a good practice to do it. And that's the kind of password length as well that would be adequate to keep it as secure as possible. There's no need to really update them all the time anymore, because they've found out that it is actually more likely to be hacked if it's or be compromised, because people, all they're doing is adding an extra number to the end of the password, so it's never actually changing as such. So it's best just to keep it as it is. But obviously, if anything was to happen, then you'd have to change something different. Passwords shouldn't contain any consecutive letters or numbers. So don't create a password that's got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 or ABCD or whatever. It should always be a completely random word. And never ever use a password with the word password, even if it has numbers or special characters replaced as letters, because this is like the #1 password that will be compromised. So multi-factor authentication, what is that? So multi-factor authentication is another level of security that you can add to an account to prevent it being compromised. So initially, one factor is a password, and then you have multi-factor. Now, multi-factor could be different things. So it can be, for example, a text message with a code. It could be an app that you use. It can be a token. It's another method of signing in, basically. And it's just a way of gaining access to your account. Typically, Office 365 supports MFA. You know, we recommend everyone set that up just to keep peace of mind. It is a core component of strong identity and access management policy for the techies out there, just so you're aware of that. It doesn't just ask you for a username and password. You will use that to sign in, but then basically what it will do is it will use a different method of verification. 365, for example, you have the Authenticator app, you'll get a pop-up notification on your phone. It'll say, do you authorize this sign in? You click approve, and then it'll use biometrics to sign in, whether it's Face ID or Touch ID or a PIN code, and then that will then authenticate to sign you in. So this is just summarising what I've just said. So basically, multi-factor authentication is a process in which users are prompted to use the sign-in process for additional form of identification, such as a mobile phone or a fingerprint scan. It works by requiring 2 or more methods of the following information. So this is the actual strategy for MFA. It's something you know, which is typically your password, something you have, which is such like a trusted device, that's not easily duplicated, like a phone or a hardware key. Now, a hardware key, for people that don't know what them is basically, it's like a small box, and it basically has a screen on it with a button. And every time you sign in, it'll ask you for a number. You press the button on it, and it'll basically give you usually like a 6 or 9-digit code, and you use that to sign in. That's all that basically is. And then it's something you are, which is biometrics. So if your phone supports fingerprint or facial scans, you can use that as well. So the Microsoft 365 Secure Score. Now, what is that? I mean, you know, I've never heard of that before. You know, that's what most people are probably going to be saying to themselves. So the Microsoft Secure Score is a measurement of an organization's security posture. Now, the higher the number, indicating the more improvement actions have been taken. It's something that can be found in the Defender portal. And so the Secure Score is only available on certain add-on plans within 365, mainly like the Defender plans that you get it with, and some of the E-plans you get it with as well. And it helps an organization report the current state of their security posture. It improves the security posture by providing discoverability, visibility, guidance, and control. And you can compare it against benchmarks to establish KPIs or key performance indicators, just for relevance, basically. And on screen, this is what the Secure Score actually looks like. You want a higher number to be within compliance, basically, but that's roughly what the actual score looks like. So how does it actually work then? Well, it's basically given points of actions to take. Now, you can see on screen there's an example there that shows you what sort of actions need to be taken. So the first one's going to be require MFA for all users. Now that is currently not enabled. So you want to enable that. That's going to give you 9.47% on top of your score. So that's going to be an instant one that you can do to enable that for all users. That's something very, very simple that can be enabled. But you might want to enable, if you're using Defender for 365, you might want to enable the safe attachments policy. So when you get attachments, they're scanned for viruses or malware or whatever. You can enable that, and you're going to get 4.21 then. And there's different ones that you can turn on, and the list is, it's a big list that you'll get, and you just go through each one. Now, these are just recommendations on what to do. If there's something on there that you physically can't do for whatever reason, your organisation might not want to have that particular thing checked, you can dismiss them because you're accepting the risk then. So you can dismiss them, and then that's not going to affect anything. But it just addresses improvement actions and it uses third-party applications as well and software to or any alternate mitigation, basically. So that's really, and it isn't, the secure score is actually in real time to reflect the information presented in a virtualized and improvement action pages with charts and graphs and things. And it will sync daily to receive the data and the points if they change, basically. So what services will be included in the secure score? Now, this is where the secure score goes again. So it's the services on 365 which are included when the scoring works and when it gets that data. So if you're using 365, including Exchange Online or Active Directory or Defender for Endpoint, Identity Apps and Teams, then these are all included in the secure score results, basically. Now, we are going to be doing a major push out on secure score for all our customers. But if you want to get like just a brief or like a basic walkthrough of secure score, or you've got any questions about it, then please call our sales team, because they're actually going to be doing this for our customers, and they're available on 01925 818 448. They'll be happy to help you have a look at your secure score, see where that is, and obviously get you where you want to be, basically, should you want to actually implement the secure score feature. So just going to finish off with some 365 security and add-ons. So 365 gives you multi-factor authentication. That's on all accounts. That's available for anyone to use. They can turn that on and set it up, and it will just simply work. The beauty of Office 365, or Microsoft 365, as it's now known as, is that it's always up to date. So whenever there's a security issue, or say a 0-day, or there's a vulnerability detected, Microsoft have got a dedicated team that will basically are there to patch and fix any problems that occur. It also means when a new version of Exchange comes out, or a new version of 365 comes out, it will always be the latest version that's available. And this is then deployed to all the customers over a period of time, but it is deployed to them through what's known as channels. But it is a system that's, like I say, it's always up to date, and you don't have to worry about having a system that's going to be out of date in 12 months' time. The default features for malware and anti-spam, they're great. They do work. There is some customization that you can do on the base plan to block malware and spam. But if you want to go into the next tier, which is the paid service plan, you can actually enable Defender for 365. And what this does is it will give you an advanced malware and anti-spam service that is fully customizable as an admin. You can create policies on it. You can customize it to your heart's content, basically. It is very, very, very good. There's a lot of options in there that you can specify, and you can really restrict it so you're only getting the email that you want to get. As part of the Defender for 365, you also get safe links, and you get the attachments service as well. Now, what that does is the attachment service, there's many options on that, where when you receive an attachment, it will either remove the attachment, scan it for viruses, and then add the attachment back to the email, or you can have it so it blocks them all, or it goes to an administrator, or it just passes it through. There's various things that you can do on there. The safe links one is basically when you get a link in an email. So this is handy for these the African letter fraud, and 419 email fraud and phishing, because what it will do is it will rename the URL that you get in the ticket to in the email, sorry, to safelinks.protection.microsoft.com, and then there'll be a load of random characters on it. And what this does is it scans it through like a separate engine, and it's multiple engines that scans it. And if it detects that link is fraudulent or a phishing scam, it will actually remove the link, and it will actually send you an alert to say this email is dodgy, or it's fraudulent, basically. One other thing that it also does as well is that if it does come through and you click on the link and it has detected that it's a rogue link or a fraudulent link or a scam or whatever, you'll get a web page that comes up with a red screen, and it says this link is basically trying to steal your data. It's not a safe link, and that's the sort of thing that you'll get with it. So it is very, very useful, and there is exclusions that you can add to it, because sometimes you get a link through that is genuine and it can get blocked. So you can actually add exclusion lists to the system, and then basically that it just won't rename the link then. So there is that on there. It is a very, very good service. Highly recommend Defender 365 for anyone that's on 365, because it simply just works out of the box once it's turned on. And basically, the other option you've got as well, if you want to encrypt email or protect documents, you can use AIP, so Azure Information Protection. And this basically will, if you've got a document that's only for the eyes of the accounts department, you can make it confidential, so only then people can see it in a specific group. You can also encrypt email on it, so you can make sure that any email that you send out is fully encrypted end to end. So when the receiver receives the email message, they have to basically click on a link. It takes them to a website, sends them a code to log in to view the email, and they can reply as well from this web portal that you can view the email in, and it will then be sent back encrypted as well. And if you're interested in things like mobile security, you can get a service called Intune, and there is other services as well, like EMS is another one. And what it will basically do is it uses like what's known as MDM, which is mobile device management, and it's also got mobile application management. And what that basically allows you to do is restrict what mobile devices do when they connect to your company resources. So you can apply policies, you can roll out antivirus software via it through Defender for Endpoint. You can basically limit what apps they're allowed to go onto on their phones. You can restrict apps from working. You can also enforce things what's known as the company portal, which means that if you've got certain applications for your organization, it will deploy them to the phone, and they'll also get the company portal app where they can go into it, and it'll show it all the apps they can access. So it is really controlling their mobile devices to ensure that your data, company data, is not going to be stolen or misused. And it's it is one of them services that is, once it's set up, it simply just works basically. So that wraps up today. I hope everyone's enjoyed what I presented today. If you need to contact us, if you need sales, if you want to check out 365, or you've got 365 and you want to add some additional paid on 365 security services, please call 01925 818 448. Any questions related to this that's on a support nature or technical matter, please call our support team on 01925 818 252. Website is simplymailsolutions.com, where you can also go into the support section now, because we've just launched a new website last month, and it's got all the information regarding support, like the knowledge base access, service status, how you can contact us via a ticket, things like that is on there. Please follow us on socials, because we always publish when the next webinar is on there as well, and updates about products and feedback and things like that. And our webinar and YouTube channel can be found at simplymailsolutions.com/webinars, where you can also register for future webinars and see past ones as well. It's been a pleasure presenting today, as always. Hope to see everyone soon. Thanks for now.